We're going to be in Matthew 13, verse 3. It's going to come up on the screen. You can look it up yourself as well if you want. Jesus told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprung up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 times what was sown. He or she who has ears, let them hear. We probably know this. Maybe you know this. Maybe you don't know this. Just make sure we get it. Make sure we get it. Jesus is telling a story. He's giving an illustration. And he says there's 4 different things that can happen with the seed. Now the seed is the word of the kingdom. It's a message. It's words. It's words. That's the seed. It's the words of the kingdom, about the kingdom. It's the news about Jesus bringing a kingdom and him being a king. And there's 4 things. Some of it falls onto like a path. And on the path, it lands there, and then some birds come along, and they take the path. They take the seed, and it never gets anywhere. And Jesus says that's like people who they hear it, and they just never get it. They just never get it. One group of people. And then there's another group of people, a second group of people. And Jesus is like, these are people who are like, they're shallow soil. It's like you're just shallow soil. They hear the message. They hear the word. They're like, oh, there's a kingdom. Jesus is king of a kingdom. But then just like quite quickly things start to go wrong. They're like, oh, there's trouble in my life. There's persecution. This hasn't made my life any better, in fact. And it's like, it just goes, it's scorched and nothing grows. It doesn't grow. There's people who are like, I'm going to become a Christian. They say, oh, maybe they get baptized. And then just a little bit later, it's like, yeah, there's nothing growing. There's nothing growing there. Second type of person. The third type of person, Jesus is the third type of person. He's like, here's some seed and it falls and it's in soil that looks good and it grows, but in amongst the soil, there's thorns. There's like weeds. And so the seed's growing, but the weeds come and they choke it. They choke this. These are people who they understood it. They gave their lives to Jesus. They knew it. They knew the message of the kingdom, but it gets choked. There's no fruit. There's no fruit in their life. And then the fourth kind, it's good soil, grows well, it goes, and it's amazingly, abundantly fruitful. 4, 3, 2, 1. Which one are you? That's the question of the parable. Which one are you? Have you heard the message and not really got it? Number 1. Have you heard the message? Some problems have came and you thought, oh, I'm not really into this thing. It's a bit more tricky than I thought. Not into this thing. Number 2. Number 3, oh yeah, I'll do it, but the cares of the world, worries and wealth, that's what I'm going to give my life to. Number 3. 1, 2, and 3, you don't want to be in these places. You don't want to be in these places. There's no fruit. Number 4, this is where you want to be. You want to be good soil. And I hope that as you sit here, you're like, I want to be good soil. I want to be the good soil. I don't want to be this kind of thorn, weed-infested soil. I don't want to be this shallow soil where nothing can grow and last. I don't want to be a path. I want to be this. I want to be this. This is what I want to be. I'm hoping that's what you want. If you think about it, the probability is that you're not here. Because there's 1, 2, 3 other options, and only a quarter of the options is where you want to be. And as I've been thinking about this, I'm like, I wonder if I'm challenging these people enough about where are they? Maybe I'm just not challenging people enough. Like, what I'm hearing from you is you may be shallow soil. And if you get to the place you're like, oh, God, please, make me good soil. That's what I want for you. I want you to be like, you're on your knees like, oh my word, Lord, I don't think I'm good soil. I want to be good soil. Please make me good soil. So how do you become good soil? How do you become good soil? There's It's only what the Lord can do, really. He can only change the type of soil you are. But there's some things you can do to invite him to change you. There's some things that you can cooperate with how he wants to make you good soil. Do you want to be good soil? Yeah? Okay, let's look at this. You hear the word. You hear the word. What's the word? The first word is this. Our Father is a farmer. Can you say that to me? Our Father is a farmer. Just turn to the person next to you and say, your father is a farmer. Your father is a farmer. Do you understand that? Your father is a farmer. You see, Jesus is interesting, isn't he? Because Jesus' father was a carpenter. So he could have said, let me tell you a parable. A carpenter went and got a bit of wood, and he planed the wood, and he cut the wood, and he carved the wood, and he made with the wood whatever he wanted to make. You see, a carpenter has total control. He bends, and he makes the process exactly how he wants it to be. If his father was a carpenter, you'd be like, God is total control in every single situation. He will force into his will what he wants to happen. It happens quickly. It happens exactly as he wants it to be. But his father's not a carpenter. His father's a farmer. What's a farmer? Slow work, grubby hands, but there's a harvest in the end. Slow work, grubby hands, there's a harvest in the end. His father's a farmer. His farmer's not a magician. Do you meet many Christians who want God to be a magician? I've prayed for this, God. Where's the instant answer? Why have you not healed? I asked you to heal me and I'm not healed. I asked you for another job. Where's my new job? I asked you for a partner. Where's my partner? God, you should be a magician. It should just be, if God is really loving, why is there suffering in the world? They want God to be like a magician. Like, whoop, sorted it out, all done straight away. But Jesus doesn't say your father is a magician. He says your father is a farmer. Slow work. Have you met a farmer? Do you know it's slow work? You sow the seed. It's slow work for the seed to grow. It's slow work. The seed grows slowly. Have you met a farmer? Grubby hands. They've got grubby hands because sometimes the seed doesn't grow well and you've got to get his hands in the soil. Leslie's grandfather was one of the biggest spinach farmers in all of America. In Oklahoma, huge spinach fields. And one year he says he went out and he looked at the spinach crop. He's died now, but there's a story I heard told of one of the big family myths that's told. He went and saw all the spinach crop and he was like, shall I harvest it today or shall I leave it? It's not quite ready, I'll leave it one more day. The next day he goes and some weed, some kind of rot had set in and the whole crop was lost. Farmer, grubby hands. It's grubby hands. If you're a farmer, it's not that you sort of take every single situation and it's like it's like there's some things you're dealing with, it's grubby hands. Think about Abraham. God says to Abraham, you're going to have a son and he's going to be all the generations of the world. He's going to be so many kids through you that every family on earth is going to be blessed by you and you're going to be more than the stars in the sky. 16 years. Slow work. He's a farmer. He's a farmer. Think about Moses. Moses is like, I'm going to take you out of Egypt and I'm going to set you free, the people free out of Egypt. If he was a magician, he'd just click his fingers and then be out of Egypt. If he was a carpenter, he'd make it just so that everything was molded and worked perfectly and easily and it was so beautiful. But he's a farmer. And so there's plague after 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 plague. Because he's a farmer, he's grubby hands. Your father is a slow work. Grubby hands, but there's a harvest in the end. There's a harvest in the end. You see, the guys who hear the word, but they don't really understand it. It's the trouble and the persecution that puts them off. Because they're like, if God's really called me, why is my life hard? And the answer is, because your father is a farmer. Because your father's a farmer. This is the situation you have. You have a father who's a farmer. And one of the biggest challenges we have is actually to think at God's speed. Almost sounds heretical to say it, doesn't it? But do you notice how often God does things so slowly? Have you noticed how so often when God's plans are advancing, all these things are coming in to oppose it? All these troubles are coming, and yet the plan is still advancing, but it's sinking at God's speed. I mean, it's crazy to come to earth as a baby and to have shepherds visit and kings visit. And then as far as we know, nothing happens for about 27 years. And then it's crazy that when something starts to happen, more people oppose it than buy into it. But a farmer's used to this. A farmer knows this. They've got grubby hands. Think at God's speed. Think of David, anointed king, chased around all over the place, has to hide in caves and disappear off to a foreign land. Think of Ruth. It's the trouble that comes into her life. It's the death of her husband that causes her eventually the work of God comes through. Salvation, redemption, hope, meeting of Boaz. Think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Flees home, trouble. But she knows her father is a farmer. So when the trouble comes, it's like, well, this is all part of the process. This is how it works around here. This is what it is. This is how it works. My father is a farmer. Second thing is this. I am soil. Can you say that to me? I am soil. I am soil. Have you noticed this? This is really countercultural. Because we think, I'm the plants. I'm the plant. The kingdom is all about me thriving. It's all about me doing well. Though I use this book so I have a good life. I'm the plant. And then you read this and you realize, hold on, I'm the soil. And this is the plant. I am soil. This is the plant. Can you imagine? We have to realize that actually we're the soil. We're for God's glory. We're for his honor. He's not there for our honor. You see that? We think he's there for our honor. Oh God, you've got to sort my life out. My life's got to be really excellent and amazing. And he is kind. He'll do a lot of good things. But we are here for his glory. We're the soil. Have you ever imagined, like you went to sort of a soil convention? You go to a soil convention and all this soil get together. And this first soil comes in and he goes, do you know what? Do you know what my farmer did to me? Do you know what my farmer did to me? I can't believe it. I'm not going to be with that farmer anymore. Do you know what he did to me? He took a spade and he shoved it into me over and over again. What's that farmer's problem? And then they're like, well, I mean, that's nothing. You know, the next bit of soil comes in. His name's Pete. Comes in. Pete comes in, he goes, spade, that's nothing. Do you know what my farmer did to me? He got like lots of prongs of metal and he jabbed me with them over and over and over again, like, tuk, 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 tuk. He said he was aerating me or something. And then another one comes in, Mrs. Field. And she's like, well, that is nothing. My farmer smeared poo all over me. And you'd be like, what's your problem? Don't you understand? It's for your good. It's so that the crops grow in you. It's so that things flourish in you. You're soil. You're soil. Have you read through, we're reading through the New Testament this year, but I've recently just read through the prophets. Ezekiel. You know what happens to Ezekiel? Have you ever read Ezekiel? I mean, I know we love the bit about the bones, you know, the bones will live and they rattle together. And we love the bit about the river that flows from the new temple, and the river that flows, and let's get into the river. Oh, we love those bits of Ezekiel. You know what happens earlier on in Ezekiel? God says to Ezekiel, tomorrow your wife's going to die and you won't mourn for her. And Ezekiel's like, I just feel like you're spreading poo all over my head. God. And God's like, yeah, it's for the sake of my glory. It's for the sake of my glory. So what would be an amazing prayer would be like, God, if you want to spread poo all over my head for the sake of your glory, if that causes me to be more fruitful, that makes me good soil for the sake of your glory, God, smear away. My father is a farmer. I am soil. Hosea. Have you read Hosea? I mean, this is a crazy book. Seriously. He's like, Hosea, I need to be careful who I point at here. Go and marry a wife who will cheat on you. Over and over and over again. Go marry a wife who will cheat on you over and over and over again. God, I just feel like you're just stabbing me with like a spade here, like sticking what's this? You're killing me. He's like, it's for the sake of my glory. It's for the sake of my glory. And then Hosea's like, oh, like I feel the pain of God. Like my wife cheating on me over and over is just how God feels when his people turn to sin again and again and again. Oh, and it's prophetic. It's for the sake of his glory. If you're shallow soil, you don't understand trouble and persecution in your life. You look at them and think this is wrong. Something's gone wrong. The equation isn't fitting together. And yet God says, when you understand your soil, you understand that trouble and persecution is part of the process. Grubby hands, slow work, but harvest comes in the end. Stay faithful. You've got to understand these things. My father is a farmer. I am soil. Just two big things you've got to get. Everything we hear outside tells us otherwise, but that's not it though, is it? It's not just like deep soil is fine, because in the deep soil, that's where the thorns and the weeds also grow. So if you want to be fruitful, if you want to be good soil, you've got to also make sure that this Jesus who wants to bring good things into your life, you don't choke him. You don't choke his word. You don't let his word be choked in your life. You could even say, don't choke the bloke. I mean, you could. Couldn't you, Rob? Yeah, you'd have to. Because he's got his word that he wants to speak into your life and he wants to bring you into. He says, I've got great plans for you. I want to use you for my glory. I want you to play a great part. It would be a little bit like Jurgen Klopp saying to one of his new players, hey, do you know what? Sometimes I'm going to sub you off when you want to keep playing. Sometimes you're going to have to play out of position. Sometimes you're going to have to pass the ball when you get a chance at a goal. But you know, you could do that for the sake of the glory of my greater plan that's bigger than just you. It'd be like Jurgen Klopp saying to one of his best players, hey, do you know what? You're sitting out this week. It's for the sake of this great plan I've got, this great glory that I've got planned, and you can do a part in that, but it's not all about you. And if it all becomes about you, you're out of here. But you can play a part here, and amazing. Imagine being part of this amazing thing. We could be the football club that wins more titles in a shorter space of time than any other football club. Can you imagine that? Go down in generations, and Jesus said you could play a key part, you can be a key part, your soil, you can play a key part in the greatest rewriting and reworking that the world has ever seen. You can play a key part in that. But sometimes you have to sit out, sometimes you're benched, sometimes you play out of position, sometimes you don't get the glory. So don't choke the bloke, don't choke the voice, don't choke the word. And this is what I think we've got some real concerns. We've got some real concerns. This is why we're pushing so hard on New Testament in a year. Because there's two ways you choke the word in your life. Worries and obsession with the wealth of this world. You spend all your time worrying about stuff. You spend all your time running after stuff. And you choke the word that wants to bring fruit in your life, the word that wants you to be a key part in this incredible rewriting and reworking plan that God has for all creation, and you choke it. 2 Timothy 3, verse 16. Do you know this verse, 16 and 17? All Scripture is God-breathed. All Scripture is God-breathed, and it's useful for teaching and training in righteousness so that you can be equipped for every good work and to actually live as God would want you to live. So is this book choked out of your life? Is it choked out of your life? Is there a schedule in your day, every day, day in, day out? I won't choke the word. I won't choke the word in my life today. This is serious stuff. Did you notice number 3, the third type? They hear the word, they understand the word, they actually love the word, but it gets choked out of their life. I've got to tell you, I meet so many people, I'm like, the word's being choked out of your life. There's a big thing, you all know the big thing. You meet more and more, and it's getting bigger and bigger. She's like, to veganism. And veganism, you look at what veganism is. Oh, Gordon's shaking his head. Hold on, Gordon. Hold on. You know what veganism says this? It says, for the sake of this great thing, the world, I'm going to stop doing certain things in order to see this happen. So I'm going to stop all dairy products and all meat, okay, to save the world. I'm not a vegan, but I have stopped doing certain things in order to save the world. I've stopped ironing. I'm serious. You're laughing, but I'm serious. I calculated, about 15, 20 years ago, how long it would take me to iron shirts in a week. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not giving half an hour to an hour every week ironing shirts. I'm just going to buy non-iron shirts. And I'm going to use that time for the word. For the word. I've cut out ironing. I've cut out the BBC website. I don't look at them anymore. Because for me, it's choking the word. I don't go on BBC News. In fact, I've deliberately cut it off because I think some of the things they say are terrible. Right? But you know what? I've cut it off because I've stopped doing this for the sake of saving the world. Because if I let the word be choked in my life, my key part that God wants me to play in the renewal and reworking of the world could be missed. It could be choked. I could miss out on that. For the sake of saving the world, I've stopped ironing. I've stopped reading BBC News. For the sake of things, I've stopped playing Candy Crush. We do this over and over again, don't we? The boys will get a new game. Dad, have you seen this game? It's a really good game. And I'll be like, oh no, I better not play it, boys. And like, come on, Dad, just have a quick go. Come on, it's Christmas. So I'll have a quick go. And then like a few days later, I'll be like so far beyond anything they've done. Because they have time limits on how much time they can go on these games. But I'm like... And they'll be like, Dad, have you got us a new level? And I was like, a new level? I've got you 100 new levels. And then I'll suddenly be like, it's like this waking up. I'm like, oh my word. The bloke's being choked. I start dreaming of like swiping left and you kind of get this explosion all over the screen. I'm like, oh no. I'm choking it. So they'll be like, Dad, where's Candy Crush gone? The app's disappeared. And I'll be like, I've deleted it. It's not on the tablet anymore. Lots of things. Now, you don't have to do these things. These are my things. But what have you stopped doing so you don't choke the word? I don't go on any social media. I never go physically shopping to a place. I hate it. It's wastes so much time. You try on so many different things. They're rubbish. So all online now. It's all online. I don't care. I don't care if the shop's shut. What have you, are you deliberately into, because this is what Jesus is saying to you, the word will be choked in your life unless you deliberately stop it being choked. So what are you doing to prevent it being choked? I used to every day, another thing I used to, I don't do this anymore because my job's different, but when I was working, I used to work for Deloitte and Touche, and I was working big things, and just every day I'd be like, I'm taking half an hour lunch break. I'm just taking it. I'd just go and sit and I'd pray and I'd read the Bible. Every day. Every day on the train, I'd be like, I'm reading this. Because I don't need to be choked in my life. Do you understand this? Like, do you understand the consequences of having the word choked in your life? I don't want to be fruitless. I don't want you to be fruitless. Wouldn't it just be a tragedy if you get to the end of your life and you're like, oh my goodness, I was number 3. The word was choked in my life because of worries and what the things of the world. Wouldn't that be awful to get there? I don't want you to be there. So don't let it be choked in terms of time, and then don't choke his influence on you. Do you know, more and more we act like we're pundits on this book, like we're sort of, there's Alan Hansen there and Alan Shearer here, and I was going to say Tess Daly, but that's the wrong woman, isn't it? Whatever her name is. Gabby Logan. Let's sit, and we all sit around, what do you think about this? Well, I think this. I heard an interesting story about this. Did you hear about that missionary? They did this and that and the other. We're pundits. We just pass interesting comments on this. Interesting comments. But who's actually living? Who's actually letting this sit as an authority over their life and they're living it? Who's letting the word actually determine what they do? Think about it like this. All week this image has been in my mind. It's like a sailing ship, like a small one. Like a, what do you call it? Not a yacht, not that big, smaller than that. A dinghy. It's got a sail, right? It's got oars and you can row it. It's like you think about like a dinghy. And you think about what I think happens so much in my life. I look back on my life and I think what I've done so much in my life is that I've had this sail and I've been I'm giving all my energy to move this thing, like my ambitions, my plans, my goals, what I think is wise, what I think is right. And maybe if I'm really successful, it moves forward slightly. But then I'm like, I've got to catch a breath. I've got to catch a breath. This is killing me. I've been trying so hard to move this thing and it's killing me. I've got to catch a breath. I just think this is how nearly all of us live. And then God's like, why don't you catch my breath? Why don't you catch my breath? And what does catching my breath mean? It means you put the dinghy where it's going to catch the wind. You make it a priority. I'm going to read the Bible every day. I'm going to be at church every week. I'm going to deliberately put myself in these places where I know I can catch the wind. And then when you catch the wind, as long as you don't deliberately bring down the sail, as long as you don't deliberately turn it in the wrong direction, the wind moves the boat. The word drives your life. You don't come to it like, oh God, here's what I want, now give me the verse to help me get what I want. It's like, God, what do you want? And now help me live that way. And this, I think you can tell if you're doing this or not. If you can just think in your life, what are things that I have given up for the sake of pursuing the call of the kingdom on my life? I've told you this story before, but I'll tell you this again. I was doing a job I loved. I was working in the Ministry of Defence, exciting job, interesting. Can't tell you about it, or I'd have to kill you. But I was in the job, and I was sitting there one day, and I just applied to be transferred to Northern Ireland. And in Northern Ireland, I was going to have double my pay and be working on some really exciting stuff. And I loved it. And then one day, I was walking home, and I just felt like the Lord was like, but you don't know anybody in Northern Ireland. All these people you've been trying to reach out to and show me to, you're going to be walking away from. This church that you've been part of and invested in, you're leaving. And I don't want you to do it. Now, of course, it's sometimes right to move, right? It's sometimes right. I'm not in any. Don't hear me saying that. Just saying, for me, I just knew as I read the word, I just had this thing in my stomach, like, this is not what he has for me. And I went home and I said to Leslie, do you know that job that I've kind of accepted and really want to do is going to enable us to do all this stuff? I just think the Lord may be saying I shouldn't do it. And Leslie, I was hoping, would be like, oh no, you know. And she was like, well, if that's what he said, then that's what we must do. It ruined my dinner. Ruined my dinner. I was really annoyed, went to bed early, and got up the next day. And I went to work. And all the way to work, I was like, God, give me a verse that proves that I can do it, move to Northern Ireland and get this double pay. Give me a verse. Give me the verse. And I looked through the whole thing, and not a single verse in there that said that. And I got to work the next day, and I sat down at my desk. And as I was sat down at my desk, I thought, I have to write this email. And I typed out the email to the guy who was going to be going to work for. And I typed it all out. And just before I went to hit send, suddenly, and all I can say to you is, it's like, suddenly I couldn't breathe, my face turned white, and I started to sweat. And my mate next to me said to me, mate, are you all right? You look really ill. And I went, I'm not all right. And I ran out of the room, into the toilet, and I just splashed loads of water on my face. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. So I went home that night. I said to Leslie, no, we're going. We're going to Northern Ireland because I want to do that. And I'm not giving that up. She kind of looked at me and was like, oh, okay. Is the Lord good? Yes, he's good. Has he ever failed us? No, he's never failed us. Is this what he's asking us to do? To move over there? And is that what he's asking us to do? No, it's not what he's asking us to do. So she just, come on, let's do this. Let's pray. Went the next day, sent the email, and do you know what? It was like suddenly I sent it. It was like this feeling of like this choking was released. It was released. Because the worries of this world and the deceptiveness of wealth chokes the word in your life. We were leading a small group. I think we were leading a small group. We were leading the youth group. We were leading everything in that. So many things in that church. We were giving loads of our money. We were seeing people come to faith, but the word was choked. Can you say, this is the thing, I can see God's changed my direction. He filled my sail and I started doing this instead of that. I gave that up because I knew this is what the word was calling me to do in my life. Can you see that? If you can't see that, are you sure you're good soil? Because you're probably not. Have a happy day. But you're probably not. Do you get that? That's what Jesus is saying. The probability is there's good soil, but you're probably not in that place unless you call out to the Lord, make me good soil. Unless you say, Lord, I don't want to choke your word. Unless you're like, God, I want to make this a thing that drives my life. Then you probably are. Then you probably are. Our Father is a farmer. Slow work, grubby hands, but the harvest comes in the end. You are soil. You are soil. Trouble and persecution comes, but it's all part of the process for making you fruitful. Don't choke the word. Don't choke the word. Don't let it be choked. And if you do those things, 100, 60 or 30, it doesn't really matter. All of that is totally miraculous fruitfulness. All of that stuff is totally miraculous fruitfulness. Should we pray?